Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wytpod. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at White Labs. We're a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. I've got Spencer with me today. He's the Director of Marketing at Sustainment, a brilliant supplier management software. A big welcome to you, Spencer. I'm so happy to have you with me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
Well, man. Now, Spencer, what really attracted you to join Sustainment and, pivot from your previous role in ad tech to this manufacturing sector?
No, I appreciate you asking that. So, as you mentioned, I previously worked in ad tech for a firm for 7 years and really enjoyed my time there. When this opportunity got presented to me, to jump from ad tech, which is very forward thinking in terms of technology, and then go into, a SaaS universe in the manufacturing sector, it couldn't be more different, right? You're going from something that is incredibly forward thinking, we're looking at things like cookie deprecation, data privacy, identity, all of those types of things to, really trying to figure out how do you put software in the hands of blue collar workers who, really help our nation's economy go round. Manufacturing represents 10% of the nation's GDP. And so for me, what attracted me was a couple of things. One, the challenge, right? To take a big jump from something where, we're delivering technology solutions to people in ad tech, then to people, in this manufacturing sector. And so that's a huge challenge. The second is that Sustainment is an Austin-based startup. So it's a Series A venture-backed startup out of Austin with a remote workforce. And so understanding that, I had previously, the firm that I was with, we had grown, whenever I joined, was still a venture-backed company, took on 2 private equity partners over the course of 7 years and grew from anywhere from 150 to almost 700 employees with a more than $1 billion valuation. And so becoming that tech unicorn status of a company was a big deal. And obviously you're going to change things operationally and operate more as an enterprise type company. And so to make that jump from, almost 700 employees down to 20 to 25 employees is a massive jump as well. And so really the challenge of both the industry and then going from something really big to getting in on the ground floor of a company that has a mission that I believe in was great. And then really, I would say most importantly, the people of the company, as I went through the interview process, getting to know just the different leaders in the company, especially our CEO, Brett Boyd. I report directly to him and he's a fantastic guy and he's got a great vision for this company. And so just getting to know them, there was a comfortability there that made it really easy and attractive to join.
Now, I would love to understand a bit more about, sustainment. What are the main core USPs of your platform, and how do you basically differentiate yourself in the crowded space?
Sure. Yeah. So, it's a really interesting space, manufacturing software. There's a lot of different components to it. And what Sustainment is doing is actually I don't want to call it niche. We were just talking about this a second ago. I don't want to call this niche, but it's new. It's a different way of doing things. So traditionally within, a software universe, you have a couple of main components, right? Sales has a CRM tool. Finance and admin typically relies on an ERP with maybe an SAP integration. And then your procurement and sourcing teams within manufacturing are left to email and spreadsheets. And so what Sustainment is doing is we have what's called an SRM, or a Supplier Relationship Management platform. And we're essentially putting software in the hands of procurement and sourcing teams that allows them to go and do their work better. It's interesting because SRM it's a verified category within the industry. There is absolute ownership of this category as well. But the way that it's being owned and the way that it's being talked about is not the way that it should be. And so that's what Sustainment is doing that's different, is we're focusing on how, these procurement and sourcing teams don't have a specific software solution built for them in their function. We're putting software in the hands of these procurement and sourcing teams that allows them to manage their vendor relationships better, allows them to do things like cut RFQ times down. It allows them to speed up their POs and have better management of it. They're able to measure supplier performance better. And then it also makes their quality audits a lot easier as well. And so those are some of the different ways that, when you build software specifically for those teams, it tends to work a lot better. And then the other thing is that the TAM, the addressable market on this, is actually, it's really interesting. There's 300,000 manufacturers in the US that are classified as small to mid-size. And it represents almost 99% of manufacturing in the US, of the companies in the US. And so we're working with, a large industry of a lot of companies who need tools like this to be able to succeed.
Yeah. All right. Now, in your views, what it looks like to balance the PLG and sales-led motion, and what you're doing to strike that balance.
Yeah, great question. So, whenever I came into Sustainment, previously we had taken a very PLG motion forward. We've been working on striking the balance of that hybrid. And I think a lot of SaaS companies across software right now are seeing a lot of that. I think that's an emerging trend where, you're seeing some great product-led motions. Companies like MailChimp, for example, do a great job of being able to go and sign up and start your account right there. But you're seeing a lot of companies that, have this hybrid approach, especially within tech software across many sectors, where you have a way that you can get introduced into the product, right there with a click of a button, because today's, culture is that we want to have things instantaneously. But you're having a lot of sales-led motion because a lot of software that's being built requires some explaining for it to be extremely valuable. Not that it's not intuitive, but that people need to understand, and we're being inundated with so many different software solutions. And so that's what Sustainment is doing, is we make it available, and it's a free resource actually for suppliers to join the network and be able to communicate with manufacturers that they work with, and also bid on new opportunities. But really, the value comes in for those who have more complex outsourced manufacturing operations, and they're able to come onto the platform, manage their supply chain more effectively. And that's when we kind of get into those paid tiers. And really, that requires not just like a sales-led motion to walk them through and really fit the software to their specific need, but we also have a really strong customer support background. We just expanded the team to have more of that as well. And then we have a person in-house with a manufacturing specific background, where we basically give you a consultant or someone who is he's specialized in manufacturing, and he understands the lingo and he understands the workflow. And so to be able to give you that from our team, that level of support, that white glove service is really important as well.
Gotcha. And any specific strategies that you have employed to increase your brand awareness as well as positioning, basically like in the space?
Yeah, so my role as director of marketing right now, I lead a marketing team of one. So I'm trying to figure out what that looks like, and really it takes a village, right? So it takes the CEO acting as a marketer, it takes our head of sales acting as a marketer, it takes our head of product acting as a marketer. And so as much as it's a team of one, it's a village of people bringing valuable input, bringing different ideas to the table and making it happen. And so what we're doing right now as a startup is figuring out, how do we really get down funnel and downstream on who it is that we sell to and what it is that we solve for as quickly as possible. That's the best way that we can have a brand that sticks is, we can say something on a website or an event backdrop that really sticks with people, and they understand what it is that we do and why we exist in the world and how that pertains to them. And it feels like we're almost reading their mail, right? Where they're like, I need that, like that solution hasn't existed, and now I see it, and now I can't unsee that problem. And then we're doing things, more tactically right now that we're working on, whether it's upgrading our event presence and event backdrop and all that kind of stuff, to brand development, the stylescape that we use, our website as an asset, turning that into more of a lead gen tool. There's different things that we're doing, looking at the site architecture and the nav, and just the way that we facilitate that experience, just to have a brand that is sticky with people, but also works for us operationally.
Gotcha. And what are the most effective channels for you when it comes to your, lead generation and user acquisition?
It's really interesting going from ad tech to manufacturing on this, because in ad tech, I would have told you it'd be things like SEO and SEM and a lot of growth marketing efforts in general. But ironically, with manufacturing, it couldn't be further from that. We've had a lot of success with face-to-face conversations. And so a lot of it is, events and trade shows, but it's also things that, it feels so historic, but drop-ins on manufacturing sites. We've had that be very successful for us as well, where our sales team will go out and meet with manufacturers, on site and get a tour of their operations. I've gotten a tour a handful myself, which has been fun, and get to see, what are the processes that you do? What is it that you're proud of? And then we get to kind of sit down and build a relationship together. And that's really the business that we're in, is that as a SRM or a subscription platform, our goal is to help build relationships or build software to build relationships deeper. And so the best way to do that is for us to get in person. So we do a lot of trade shows. We do about 12 a year, probably like 4 larger shows and a handful of regional shows that we do around the US. And then some drop-in campaigns are really effective for us as well.
Okay, is it attribution for the leads that you generate through events and all not a problem for you? Have you got that sorted? Or like, what's your view on that?
Yeah, attribution actually isn't too hard since we're so small. We got a smaller team where the sales and marketing effort is really between me and another guy. And so that makes it a lot easier to be able to hand that off where he and I are at every show together. We're able to talk through and we have notes and we've come up with a really good process for how we handle things operationally on the back end of every trade show. It's pretty automated at this point where we can get emails off to people that we meet within hours of meeting them on the trade show floor. Tools like HubSpot make it really easy to do that. We've got a great instance with them and their support team's been great to help us get us up and running there. I'd say attribution in general though it's finicky, right? Like it's a tricky space, and I actually really just came out of this where we had a lot of conversations around how do you have attribution to your digital campaigns, and it's tricky because more often than not, the source that is doing the attribution reporting is the one that wants to skew it. And so you have companies like Google that want to take credit for other people's work. And then more often than not, when you pull back in another category because it's not a one-to-one relationship, and you think, okay, well, if Google's telling me, all my conversions are coming from SEM, then I must be, I should pull back from another area. But in reality, they're assisting that conversion, even if it is happening on Google. And so it's more often than not that people will do that and then they'll see performance drop. And so for us, attribution is actually, it's more of a conversation of, hey, what did you learn about the person? What's their primary pain point? Where are they at within the organization? Are they someone that's going to influence a deal? Are they someone that's going to be a change leader within the organization? And so what we've done to make attribution a lot easier is we've built an account-based marketing program that we run. And the goal of that is essentially to understand who we're talking to and what their primary pain point is. And that gives us a better idea of a timeline for a sales cycle.
Gotcha. And anything that you're doing for your customer retention side of things, any strategy that are working well?
Yeah, our product team does a really good job of working with the people on platform. I would say just in general, they're really ahead of the game in terms of how they structure platform communications, product updates, really just interacting with the Sustainment universe a lot better. That's been super successful for us. It's just the way that they're approaching communications. They use Customer IO as their primary source of software for communicating. And what that allows them to do is they take the actual platform analytics from Amplitude and pull it into Customer IO. And they're able to see, basically any action that a user takes within the platform timestamped and then segment off of that, which is really, really cool because then it makes it easy for us to not oversaturate messaging with people and be more targeted in that approach. And so I work really closely with our head of product to make sure that what we're doing from a general corporate marketing standpoint is in line with what we're doing from a retention standpoint, platform marketing or product marketing. And the other thing is that the product also speaks to HubSpot. And so we have a 360-degree view of our customer at all times once they've gotten on the platform. I can see people that have been, we met them at a trade show or they came to our website and they downloaded, a piece of thought leadership, and then watch them go through the process and sign up for the platform and then see, what are they interacting with? How is that going? What is product seeing? What are the conversations that our sales team is having with them? And what is our CS team doing to help build that relationship? And so for us, it really, maybe that's just de facto being smaller right now, but it actually is a really cool part of what we do.
Gotcha. And when it comes to your key performance indicators, what do you prioritize, basically to measure the success of any of your marketing campaign and your user acquisition efforts?
I see myself as part of a broader effort. Like as we do marketing, if marketing is not effective if we're just getting people to download content, and be able to say, okay, we increased our followers by XYZ, or, we had X number of downloads or anything like that. Like, I think the question to that should be, so what? And what is that doing for the business as a whole? And so I work really closely. We call ourselves a go-to-market or a growth team, but basically our sales, product, and marketing and CS are all in alignment at all times. And everything is basically down to a bottom line of, hey, are we driving new people to adopt the platform? and adopt what we're selling. Especially at this phase as a startup, we're really trying to do that and do that at scale. And so we're in an interesting spot too, because the other thing about Sustainment that I didn't tell you earlier, we have two business units. So our initial business unit that Sustainment was founded on was building a product out for the DoD, the US Air Force, and the DLA. So we have government contracts where we do a federal and defense program built for them. And then about, kind of halfway into that journey, and really honestly, the push to go to market really happened in October of last year, but Sustainment decided to commercialize that product. And so there's 300,000 manufacturers I told you about in the US, small to mid-sized manufacturers. We're able to basically package, that platform and then sell it into the commercial procurement teams that exist around the country. And so what we're able to do is then sell into two different business units, and they're very different sells. The federal defense is more of a partnership. The commercial operates more like a traditional SaaS environment. So KPIs, they vary depending on who we're talking about. But in the end, are we driving new customer acquisition? Are we retaining the customers that we do acquire? And what's the cost behind that associated with it as best as we can attribute that? We have a pretty good model for doing that right now. And just as we grow, I think the goal is, if it gets more complex, it's because we're adding so many customers that we're just trying to figure out what to do with it. So that's currently the initiative there.
Okay. And what are some of the key learnings or insights that you have gained, basically from Sustainment's product development and market fit efforts?
Yeah. So as we work to find, market fit, it's been a really interesting exercise. So I'll kind of give you the synopsis of where things fell flat and then where we stand today. So previously, the go-to-market was that we had a product that was built for manufacturers to go and find new suppliers, because that's something that's talked about quite often. The problem with that is that it's an intermittent problem. And so when you go to market and you say, okay, we have a software, built on an annual subscription that allows you to go and find new suppliers, but that's an intermittent problem or pain point that we're solving for. It's hard for people to get behind that and say, yeah, I'm willing to sign up for an annual or even a monthly contract to have access to that data or that platform, that universe, and then be able to go and source that. So we flipped the conversation on its head, because we had tools in the background behind the whole find supplier concept that would allow you to then go and rebuild your supply chain. That's probably what you came to us for. The flip side now is that we lead with manage the supplier relationship better. And so that's the goal, is we want to put tools in your hands that allow procurement and sourcing teams to feel like this software was built for them to do their RFQs better, their POs better, their analytics on suppliers better, their quality audits better. And so those things, are front and center. And then when the need arises, the network is there on the back end where, you can go tap into that and go and find new suppliers when you need to. So the story about market fit for us is that we learned with the first launch that you can't go to market with, an intermittent problem on a always on basis, for pricing. We did a lot of market research. We talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of manufacturers to understand their problems better. And that's where we relaunched back in October into the market. And it's been a really exciting journey this past year, just seeing how people have understood that concept a lot better. And, the network has its moments where it's helpful for people, but really what these procurement and sourcing teams want and what they need is tools that are built for them. They're built for them to manage those relationships better and get the results that they're looking for. And so that's been a fun journey for us.
Yeah. And definitely, you are also targeting, just like you mentioned, there's a huge audience for you, coming from the SME sectors mainly, right? So you've got small and medium, and in fact, some of them are large enterprises as well, right? Large manufacturers. What are specific strategies or tactics that you have found to be successful in reaching out and engaging with each individual, business size altogether?
Yeah, so we're working primarily with small to mid-sized manufacturers. A lot of the large ones, let me do it this way. Actually, there's a thought leadership piece that we put together with our team, and we did it in basically a group of. We interviewed 100 plus manufacturers, and then we had some of our people that came from manufacturing background, as well as some of the people from the software background. We basically did a study and rolled out this idea of an SRM maturity model. And it's essentially every procurement operation within a manufacturer and how mature are those operations. And so there's 4 stages as you grow through that. And it kind of looks like a curve that goes up, right? And it's not about being better. It's just about being, more mature in the sense of like you're more complex, right? So at the baseline, people are used to manage things, either in their brain, like with tribal knowledge, or with a Rolodex, or on pen and paper, or via email and spreadsheet. And then as you kind of like slowly work your way up that maturity model and you generate more business, a lot of those procurement teams turn to like massive spreadsheets, and you've got like the one guy that's in the back that's a spreadsheet guru that everybody has to go tap into and be like, hey, can you build this function? Hey, can you do that? Well, the problem with that is in the same problem with that first stage is that when companies get siloed into that kind of a workflow, when that person is on vacation, when that person has a kid and is gone for however long, when that person leaves your company, what happens to your business, right? What happens to the knowledge of that operation? It goes with them. It doesn't stay with you. And so what we're trying to do is say, hey, for those stage one, stage two companies, really those stage two for the most part, we're giving you a cloud-based way of managing that data, managing the conversations, seeing everything in one place as a team, where your entire team can go log in. So if someone's sick and doesn't show up, if someone, gets injured and doesn't show up for work, if someone leaves for another job, especially with how turbulent job markets have been over the last couple of years, that's one thing we solve for. And then as you work your way up, now we're going to talk about like large enterprise companies. You start to adopt ERPs, you start to adopt SAP integration. You're really, trying to integrate as much as possible, probably because number one reason is that you're sitting on so much data. You have all this data from different customers that you have to action on. The second is you just have a lot of business and a lot of pieces to the business and people to work those things. So you're going to need systems that are more capable of handling that. Sustainment fits like perfectly in the middle of the curve. We help the people that have already adopted ERPs, SAP integration, and we help them, whether it's trying to like test out new suppliers, right? So they'll, bring in and test suppliers, but to go throw them into your ERP actually muddies that up and it makes it riskier for an audit that you might have. And so we make it really, really simple to be able to do that and you don't lose any data. Or if you're on the bottom end of that spectrum, if you're kind of doing things email, spreadsheet, or you've got the guy in the back of the warehouse that has all the knowledge, we pull you out of that disorganized mess and we pull you into an organized system. So it really works kind of both ways for the market. It just depends what angle you're coming from, where we can help suit those needs better.
That's good. All right. Now tell me what it looks like, to run marketing as one man army, in a remote work for us together.
That's a great way of putting it. It's a challenge every day, right? Like there's more things to do than there's hours in the day. And that's true of many jobs and many things that you do. It's true of things like parenting, right? Like there's so many things I want my kids to be able to do. I've got a 5'3" and an almost 1-year-old. And I feel like my wife and I talk about that often. We're just like, man, like, we've got T-ball and dance and like all these things. You're just like, oh, there's so many things. But it's true in marketing and it's true in business, right? Like you're focused on all these different things and they're good things, right? Like just like in parenting, it's like, hey, I want you to play all the sports. I want you to do all the activities. I want you to hang out with all the friends, but we're going to have to get focused with our time. And so that's the number one struggle of being a team of one, especially in a business where things move so quickly. Like we roll out product updates every 2 weeks right now, which is insanely fast. And they're not just like bug fixes. Like these are features. Like we just actually did a release this morning where we released some pretty big features. And so like when you're moving that fast and you're a team of one, it's challenging because you have to keep up like a lot. There's a lot to keep up with. I think the biggest things, just to simplify this a bit, and I'm going to do this, but at the risk of oversimplification here, the number one thing is listen to the team around you. Make sure that you're in lockstep with the different things that they're saying. And the second that you realize that there's a lack of alignment of, you might talk to sales and you might talk to product, you might work through an exercise and be like, okay, I'm hearing two different things. Let's all get together and quickly just get on a call. We're a remote workforce, even though it's an Austin-based company. And so for us, we're used to using tools like Slack and Zoom and whatnot, but frankly, it's better for us and we tend to see better results and build better relationships when we just pick up the phone and call each other. So we've all got each other's numbers and that's just how we work. That's how we work together. It's a culture that our company has built from day one, and just having that mutual respect for one another, knowing that we're all trying to achieve the same thing and believe in the best as we work towards that. And so that's pretty important to us. And, me as a marketer, I know you're probably looking for like more marketing specific stuff, but that's my role. Is like, I'm a team. What was that?
No, I get it. I mean, I get your pain.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a team of one, but frankly, like I'm one of 25. And so this company does not ride or die on our marketing. It rides or dies on how effective we are as a team altogether. And so that's how I see it, man. Is just it's my job to make sure that I pull my 125th, of the company, and that I elevate the 24 out of 25 around me that are really, really special, smart people that do a great job to make this company what it is.
Yeah, that's brilliant. In fact, I wasn't sure like that you're Austin, Texas based. In fact, my head of accounts is also, in the same city. So yeah, he works
That's
from.
awesome. Yeah, no, our CEO's in B Cave. We've
Right.
got a couple of people, our head of HR and our head of operations are both down there. So we're not a fully remote workforce. We're kind of all over the US, but we do have a handful of people down there. One of our data scientists is down there as well, which is cool. And so actually I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. So it's easy for me just to drive down a couple times a year and go grab dinner with everybody and do some offsite type meetings together, which is fun.
Yeah, that's good. All right, now because you mentioned data science, I would love to understand how do you see AI and data science evolving, in the manufacturing industry, and how is sustainment preparing for these changes?
I think there's a couple ways you can approach this, right? So there's the first question is the broadest, and there's like, how is AI changing the way that people do work in general? Like not manufacturing, not software, just AI. How's it affecting things? This is, and I'm on the younger end, but I was at a event recently. This was really interesting to me. There was a panel of people, and one of the panelists said he asked everyone to kind of raise their hands. It was like, hey, how many people in the room have built their business? And the room was filled with startup leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners. Said, how many of you have built your business on blockchain? And there were probably 200 people in the room, 150, 200 people, and one person did. And he's like, look, like that's how. I mean, that was recent, right? Like Web3, blockchain, like all this stuff is very recent. So then he said, okay. He said, I'm not trying to diss on you. I'm just calling this out. He said, now, how many of you use AI on a day-to-day basis as you build your business? And like 170 people in the room probably raised their hands. I mean, it was 90+%. And he said, look, this is not just a blip on the radar where, people get really excited about different softwares and ways to do things, and then we all forget about it later and like go revert back to what we were doing. We will not revert back to what we're doing. And that's how I see AI is that this is going to forever change the way that work is being done. We're going to see continuation of solutions that get put out to do things, just simple, mundane tasks, and do them better. Me personally, the way that I use AI, like I signed up for ChatGPT the week that it was released because I was like, this is a tool I'm going to have to get familiar with. The number one value that it does for me is it helps me go from blank space to something. Like usually I'll have an idea and be like, this is what I want. I don't know how to structure that. Like, if I were going to go give a talk, I'd be like, yeah, these are the main things that I want to do. Like, I want to get these main points across. Like, help me structure those thoughts in a way that speaks to this audience. But then there's a human component to that, right? Like, you need to be able to go through that and parse through that as a person, that can relate to people's feelings and emotions and just understand and recognize with emotional intelligence the situation around you and the people around you. So to take that into manufacturing and sustainment, within manufacturing, I think AI is more scary for people than it is helpful at the moment. Coming out of ad tech, it was kind of the opposite. It was like, if you don't sprinkle AI on something, you're behind the times. And then, within manufacturing, we're just kind of getting to that a little bit. I think people are like, yeah, you need to have some AI in there, but don't, lead with that, because for some people, it's more scary than it is helpful. I think the biggest thing in manufacturing is, how do you take AI to derive like actual value out of what you're building, the technology that you're building that genuinely helps them do their job better? It doesn't just help either A, make a profit, or B, give you something that marketing can work with, which as a marketer, I'm just speaking at a full transparency there. AI is one of the easiest things to go to market with and say, yeah, we can do this in an automated fashion now with artificial intelligence. Whatever this is, it doesn't matter. Just it's something easy, and it's exciting, right? To be able to go and talk about, and for whatever reason, we're all drawn to it. I think for sustainment, where it comes in, it's going to be interesting. Like I've seen a lot of the product development stuff that we're working on just to introduce, more AI into the product. Our number one focus is supplier management or supplier relationships and how people manage them. And so we want to introduce AI that allows you to do that better and doesn't replace the human component. And so that's what Sustainment's focused on. Is we're not trying to replace the people you work with. We're trying to elevate the relationships, the human relationships that you have, and find ways to, maybe it's a chat bot, right? That can tell you and say, hey, tell me about Like, what supplier did I send that part through, and like, how did they do? Instead of like having to like manually go hunt that information down and know how to source that information. We're trying to just bring those insights to the front. And so I think it's going to be fun to see what Sustainment does, what our product team develops and our engineering team builds, just to make that a lot easier.
Gotcha. All right, Spencer, we're coming to an end now. And I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. If you could magically increase your marketing budget tenfold, what would be the first things that you would do with those extra funds?
Tenfold right now. I'd probably put it into our web design. And that's probably very specific to what we're currently working on. But I think it's really important to have your website be a lead driver for you. There's branding components to it for sure. And you need to tell a story. But, site architecture, your navigation, your web page development, and the time and resources it takes to build that is really, really crucial. And it's really expensive and costly, right? So yeah, I would probably say like, let's go get a killer website that does exactly what we know it, can do for us and be one of our top lead drivers.
Are you using AI for your designs or not?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So we work with a creative agency too, and they've been very helpful in terms of, helping drive the direction and the stylescape and the layout and all of that. But yeah, definitely leaning into different AI solutions for that.
Gotcha. All right. What's the weirdest place you have ever come up with a brilliant marketing idea?
Oh, that's a good question. The weirdest place I've come up with a brilliant marketing idea? Probably my garage. We have like a little workout area in there. And so usually like working from home is really nice because, I can find time in the schedule and all I have to do is go put a t-shirt on and walk into the garage and, just start working out real quick for 30 minutes or whatever during the day. So, but like my mind is still running, and I can think of multiple times where like I've come out of meetings and been like, okay, I'm still thinking about that. Let me go start a workout. So yeah, probably my garage, which is not to like parallel that with how startups are built, because a lot of startups are founded out of garages. I don't want to put myself in that bucket just yet.
All right. If you could swap role with any other department in your company for a day, which would it be?
Oh, wow. This feels contentious. Like I feel like there's a wrong answer here. If anyone from Sustainment listens to this, I'm just going to say our go-to-market team. I love solving problems with our whole go-to-market team. That's going to keep a safe answer there. But yeah, that's our sales, our marketing, our product, and CS. They're really talented people. Doug Wick, he heads up our product efforts. Trevor Bryant heads up our sales, and Kyle Sperling has been doing our CS. And now we just hired Mandy Kurth to help with that as well. And so yeah, we've got a great team of people that help with that.
All right. Now, if you could use only one social media for the rest of your life, for your own personal use, nothing business related, which would it be and why?
This is the easiest question. So I'm only on one. I've been off of all social media outside of LinkedIn since 2019.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan personally of social media. That's probably a hot topic, especially as a marketer. I think it's funny
I
actually
would
because
love to know what was the trigger? Why did you decide that you want to quit all other social medias apart from LinkedIn? I mean, I understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great question. Back in it was 2019 or so, 2020, I just recognized like we had our first kid back in 2019, in July of 2019. And I think the biggest thing that I realized in the first like 6 months of his life is how precious time is and how fleeting it can be. And I was spending hours, just scrolling through different feeds across different platforms. And, that's one aspect of it is how much time you spend in these platforms. This is so counterintuitive as a marketer. My job is to like get people stuck on things, right? So this is kind of ironic just saying this, but me personally, I just knew that there are better ways to spend time, whether it's reading books and working out or pressing in with my wife and my kids. I do things like I try to put my phone on the charger when I finish up work here. It's hard to disengage in a remote environment from the work that you do, but I find that if I don't have a screen with me, I'm able to interact with my kids and my wife better when I get off of work. And so cutting social media off actually made that transition even easier because, you'll find yourself just looking for more information, just looking for things to consume when you're not even in need of it, right? For me, I love sports. And so a lot of my social media previously would have been just sports in general. But no, the reason I focused on LinkedIn, it's a great tool, build relationships, build your network. Obviously we're doing a lot of it within Sustainment, just building that company profile out. And so it just helps me feel like I'm in tune with just trends and tech and what people are doing in business. But yeah, personally, I've really just cut off the account. So I'll say LinkedIn because that's a really easy answer for me.
No, that's actually wise. I mean, I get it, completely get it. Right? It does consume all the other ones, especially like Instagram for our generation, TikTok. Crazy that. I mean, people spend hours and hours every day.
Yeah,
So
well, and the algorithms they're built to keep you there, right? Like that's the goal is how can we get you to spend more time in the platform? It's I tell this story a lot to people of just a concept, and the concept is that if it's a free product, like you ultimately are the product,
yeah,
right in the end. And so with those platforms, they're free to join. You can do it in 30 seconds or less, and then they've got you hooked for hours. And so really what they're doing is they have your data and they have your time and they have your focus, and so then they bring in advertisers into that environment and are able to sell you stuff, and that's making them money, and there's a whole system there, right? But it's not all evil, it's not all bad. I just think that our generation specifically doesn't do a great job of doing the hard thinking and really asking the hard questions of like, hey, is this worth my time, right? And so me being pushed into having 3 kids, under 5, pretty early in my career, that's just what God had for me. And so, we're grateful to be there and grateful to have these kiddos in our lives, and they definitely shape us and who we are. But I can't let social media and technology shape me. I've got to go out there and kind of take that head on and also do that for our kids, right? Like same thing as just thinking through, how are we going to put these tools in their hands, and at what age, and how are we going to understand what's effective for them at the right time? So those are just some general thoughts around that.
no, no, I respect your thoughts. Thank you so much, Spencer. This was, really, really amazing talk. I really enjoyed my time here with you. And thanks to you for sharing your experiences, your wisdom on this podcast. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been great to get to know about your business and get to know you more. And I'm honored to be a guest here and excited to see more guests and more podcasts to follow for you.